Good morning. Today we are correcting CO50. Is it 50 or 51? 51. Thought I was saying the wrong one. So we are correcting CO51. Remember we were talking about using that protractor. Okay, so we have to be very, very careful when we measure with the protractor that we are lining it up correctly and we're going to the correct side of the protractor. If the bottom part of the angle points to the left, we use the numbers on the outside counting up. If the bottom points to the right, we use the inside numbers going up, going the opposite way. Always starting at 0 and working our way up. So if we look at our first two measurements, when I measured it, I got 47 degrees. We talked yesterday about how you might not be exact with what I got, but it has to be very close. So within 4 degrees. Okay, so if you got 55 degrees, you did not measure correctly. You have to make sure that your circle is going right at the vertex and the line of the angle matches up with the line of your protractor. Okay, so if you weren't close to 47 degrees, within 4 degrees, then you need to come see me so we can practice our measuring. Liv? So my guess, Liv, is that you did the wrong side of the protractor. So let me take it out so my ring doesn't get in the way. If I line up the vertex with my circle and I line up my line, yeah, that's why I said to take it out of your binder so you don't hit into that ring, because that's going to mess you up. So the line is pointing over here. And when we come up the inside, Liv, I need you to look. When you start at 0, you're here, you're coming up. You have to be on the inside numbers. You went to the outside numbers. So you always want to make sure that you're starting at the 0 side and you're counting up. You don't want your numbers going backwards. If you go backwards, you get the wrong measurement. Here's how you check to make sure you're using the right side of your protractor. If I look at this angle, I can see that it is less than 90 degrees. It has to be an acute angle because look at that measurement. It's so cute. It's little, right? If it is little, we know our measurement will be less than 90. That's the first way to check, am I on the right side of the protractor? If I'm getting a number bigger than 90 degrees, oh, that's obtuse. But this angle is cute and little. It has to be less than 90. So that's your way of double checking that you are on the correct side of the protractor. Jimena?
I got 53.
So 53 would be 6 degrees off. So that tells me that you're having a little bit of a hard time when you're lining up with making sure that the vertex is in the middle and that this line, the angle line, lines up with your protractor line. So it means you were just a little bit off and we need to be a little bit more precise with how we line it up. Okay. Remember, if you're having a hard time seeing where the line hits, you can make that line, you can extend the line out. Use that protractor as a ruler to extend the line out so it'll be easier to see where it's actually hitting on the protractor. Our second angle we can see is greater than 90 degrees. So we know it's obtuse and our degree measurement must be greater than 90. It should be close to 133 degrees. Melanie? 127 is 6 degrees off, so nope. You want to be a little bit more precise with your measurement. So when I look at it, this is one where when we look, it's hard to see What did you get, Melanie?
127.
So if I'm looking at this, I can see where the angle line is with my protractor line. I can come up. I know it's not going to be in the 120s because this line is coming up above 130. So we want to make sure we're a little bit more precise with how we line up the protractor on the angle and then follow that line up because we can tell it's not going to be in the 120s. Okay. So just make sure we're a little bit more precise with that measurement. Any other questions on the top two? All right, let's look at the bottom two. This one, when we measure it, it's exactly 90 degrees. So it is a right angle. Did I actually have to use my protractor to measure it, or could I eyeball it? Oh, friends, this is math class. We do not just eyeball something and say, it looks like it would be 90 degrees. What if it was 89 degrees? Is it easy for you to tell the difference between 89 degrees and 90 degrees? When we look on here, that's not that big of a difference. But it changes our whole angle. This is a right angle. If you measured with your protractor, you would have seen that it goes exactly to that 90 degrees. Math class, you don't just guess. There's no guessing unless we are estimating. We must measure it, okay? So you have to actually measure. Claire. So what I've been saying is you can be just slightly off in degrees. For this one, I got 85 degrees. If you got 84 degrees, that's close enough. That's only off by 1. It's when we're off by 60, or not 60, when we're off by 6 degrees, that's too far. We need to be more precise. But if you're only off by 1 degree, you're okay. Somebody over here just said what they got. Was that Madison?
Yeah.
What did you get?
I got 90 degrees.
90 degrees for this one? The second one?
Yeah.
So when we look at it, Madison, does it look like it's perpendicular?
I was like at the side. Mine was always like this.
So that's why it's important that we take our papers out and we are very precise. On the test, we will be having an objective. Ava, that's not what we're doing right now. On the test, we will have the objective where we use a protractor and we need to make sure that we are very precise with our measuring. So we can't just say, oh, I didn't take it out and the ring was in the way or it was, a sideways. You have to be precise. Okay. Does that make sense, Madison?
Yeah.
Plus, looking at it, I can look at that and say it's definitely not 90 degrees. Okay. 90 degrees is a special angle. We can see here what that's going to look like, and this does not look the same. All right, on the bottom, using your protractor, draw a 30-degree angle and a 110-degree angle. So our 30-degree angle is definitely acute. It is less than 90. And when we think about it, half of 90 is 45 degrees. So it has to be more than half of that 90-degree angle, more than halfway down. So that 30 degrees is going to be pretty small compared to our 90 degrees. Our 110 degrees is definitely going to be bigger than 90, but it's not going to be all the way to the straight line, which was 180. So on the test, you will be asked to draw a certain angle. The way that I do this is I draw my straight line for the bottom. I pick my vertex. And if I'm drawing that 30-degree angle, I'm going to line it up with my vertex in the middle, my line of the protractor over the line on the bottom. I'm going to say my angle is pointing this way, so I'm going to go this way. Here is 30 degrees. So it goes to right there. I'm going to connect them. And that's how I get that 30-degree angle or the 110-degree angle. Draw your bottom line, make your vertex, put your protractor on it, look to see whatever angle it is telling you to draw, find that angle, and draw your line. What I had was some people who drew their line, did this, and then they went to the 30 degrees right here and said, oh, here is my angle. I can tell looking at that, that is definitely not 30 degrees because it's too big, it's obtuse. I went to the wrong measurement. So always go back and ask yourself, does this logically make sense? If I'm supposed to be drawing 30 degrees, that's acute. My angle needs to look acute. If it's an obtuse angle, it needs to look obtuse. Any questions about how to draw your angle? Any questions about protractors in general? Because this is our one day of using the protractors. We need to feel comfortable with those protractors. So if you were making mistakes and you're not sure where you went wrong, now is the time to talk about it. Layla. Because some angles point one direction and other angles point the other direction. So this way we don't have to flip our protractor over and read numbers backwards. So they have numbers on the inside for it pointing one way, numbers on the outside for when it points the opposite direction. So we don't have to flip the protractor. Ava.
So for like a right angle, does it have to be exactly 90 or can it be like 89 or something?
That is a great question. For a right angle, does it have to be exactly 90? If we look at our definitions, right angle, an angle with a measure equal to 90. It has to be 90 degrees. If it's less than 90, it's acute. If it's more than 90, it's obtuse. Actual 90 degrees, that straight up and down, is going to be that right angle. Just like with our straight angle, it has to be equal to 180 degrees. So those two are very specific. The acute and the obtuse, that's where we have a few degrees of wiggle room when we use our protractor. And I give us just a couple of degrees, definitely not 6 degrees. That means we're not lining it up correctly. But a couple of degrees off is okay. Any other questions? All right, if you're watching this at home, I hope you are well and hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.